The water crisis in Flint, Michigan is a story that is not talked about enough, which is why I, Dominic Christensen,
and I, Gabe Empey,
are reporting on the issue. But before we can talk about the water crisis, we must understand how we got there.
Since the beginning of America, we have used democracy to try and fix problems plaguing our society, because we realize the voice of the people is important, and that we, collectively, need to decide how to fix problems. This, however, is not the case in Michigan. Then Governor Rick Snyder of Michigan signed into law the Emergency Management Law. This emergency management law allows locally elected officials to be replaced with someone selected by the state's governor and directly reports to them. The idea behind this emergency management law is that Snyder knows best how to fix the problems in Michigan and that he can do it better than the local government, the collective people of Flint. This emergency management law not only undermines democracy, it is the reason why Flint, Michigan did not have access to clean, air quotes around clean, tap water for 5 years.
Flint, Michigan is a ghost of a city that has failed to recover from the boom of the auto industry, resulting in the city being impoverished and almost half of its citizens living under the poverty line. However, in order to save money, Dan Wyant, an established emergency manager, decided to switch Flint's water source from Lake Huron in Detroit to the nearby Flint River instead of negotiating a new deal with Detroit for cheaper water. And in April 2014, the switch was made official with little to no input from the local citizens. And Flint was soon drinking water from the Flint River, which is where the water crisis in Flint begins.
Switching the city's water source from Huron to the Flint River appeared to address the immediate problem of the cost, but failed to consider the long-term cost generated by using the less clean water source, resulting in high levels of lead seeping into the drinking water because the river's water had high levels of corrosive chemicals such as salt, which eroded the city's older lead pipes, which would have been fine if those in charge bothered to make sure that the water treatment plants were prepared for the excessive toxins and lead leaching the system. However, Flint water treatment plants were unprepared for this, ultimately resulting in the Flint citizens' drinking water being contaminated with lead.
Soon after the switch, many citizens quickly reported that water was brown and smelt off, a clear sign that something is wrong. However, government officials ignored these calls, brushing it off as a temporary symptom to the switchover, and the water stayed brown and increasingly unsafe. To make matters even worse, the local General Motors in Flint stopped using the water from the Flint River because the lead from the water was rusting and corroding the engine blocks being produced, as shown as the graphic here. Resulting in a deal being made where GM was offered a fresh supply of water from Flint Township, something that wasn't offered to the residents of Flint. In order to keep operations running, this caused the public to grow even more worried about the water they were drinking. But the Snyder administration told everyone that they should just relax, because there's no broad problem dealing with the lead in the water.
Eventually, an EPA memo was leaked, showing that lead levels were getting increasingly high in some households, with lead levels in water reaching 11 parts per billion, with the recommended amount of lead that someone should intake, granted no lead intake is acceptable, is 5 parts per billion. But the Snyder administration denied these claims, saying the memo came from a rogue agent. Soon, a local doctor who goes by Dr. Moana took matters into her hand and had clear evidence proving that the lead levels in toddlers' bloods were double the amount they should be. The state, however, denounced her work, saying that she was causing hysteria and should be ignored.
Finally, in 2016, After 2 years of the citizens of Flint using the contaminated water, and Flint ignoring the pleas of its citizens, the Snyder administration caved and admitted something was wrong with the water, and the city mayor declared a state of emergency, and the water was switched back to Lake Huron. However, the damage has already been done to its citizens and the pipes. Many citizens were poisoned by the lead introduced into the water, resulting in irreversible damage such as development delay, learning disabilities, drops in IQ, seizures, hearing loss, and even death. And because the water from the Flint River eroded, the lead pipes the water from Lake Huron was still unusable. And because of this, citizens had to use bottled water from all their bathing, cooking, cleaning, and drinking. And as for the Snyder administration, they tried to avoid as much responsibility as possible and were unwilling to try and help solve the problems caused by his administration because they believed that they did enough to help. The water levels have only recently returned to acceptable levels of lead, and the lead pipes should all be replaced as of 2019.
And thankfully, 15 people who were involved in the water crisis were criminally charged for false pretenses, which is a deliberate misrepresentation to obtain money or property, and involuntary manslaughter. However, in a better world, these 15 people wouldn't have been charged because they would have realized that people's lives are more important than economic gain, and the entire water crisis of Flint, Michigan could have been sidestepped.